Hello and welcome to another Wind in the Willows episode review. This is the latest of the bonus episodes from the Oh Mr. Toad Stroke Series 5 series. And this one is Hip Hip Soirée. Very unusual episode. I never know how to feel about this one. It's not strictly one of my favourites, and yet I do like it. I think it's so odd that I like it. It was never released on video. It's one of the very few that never was, and it's got a very scary scene in it. So if I'd seen this as a child, I would have been terrified. And strangely, I do have a vague memory of it, so maybe I did. So let's get into it. I'm just going to press play right now. So this one was directed by Brian Little, who he only did 3 of them towards the end. So this is the first of those, and the other 2 were Happy Birthday and Toad Filmmaker, which was the last episode. And Brian Little has gone on to direct many other series, and he's still directing, I believe, today. Met him before as well. And they just brought him in at the end, kind of as a replacement to Chris Taylor. Chris Taylor was taking a step back from directing at that point. And Brian Little was new, so I gather, so they wanted to try him out on it. And he had 2 animators, one of which was very new to it, Rachel Hall, Mark Hall's daughter, who had been animating on Creepy Crawlers just prior to this, with Lloyd Price. And the other animator was Marge Graham, who, so it seems she came back. She was originally on series 1 of the film, from the start. Didn't work on the series through series 2, 3, 4, I think, and then came back for just a few episodes at the end of series 5. So, and those animators have got their own way of doing things. They've got a distinctive look about them. Some might say a bit creepy in places. It's partly the look of the puppets, partly the style of the animation. Already Ratty and Mole look a bit odd looking there. They all do somehow, and I'm not the only one who said this, others have said this as well. Each crew, of course, had their own puppets, but then it's, of course, it's what you do with them. So puppets do differ a little bit. And when they're animated a certain way, they've just got a different feel about them. So it's pretty close. I mean, you look at the animation, you think, yeah, it's still very good animation. I'm not kind of saying they're weaker animators by any means, but they're just different. They've just got a different style. Barry Purrs, for instance, were animating these characters for years and getting used to them. Here you've got Marge Graham, who had a big gap and come back, so even though she's used to them, there was that big gap, and Rachel Hall was very new to it. And I've met Rachel, and she admitted she was terrified of animating Toad. She had to do tests of Toad, and they kept saying, do it again, not good enough, do it again. They were quite strict about it. And then she told me, Paul Berry sat down with her and made her feel much more comfortable, and was very patient with her and took her through it. And when she'd done a few shots, and Paul looked at her work, he said, you've captured Barry's Toad there. And I love how he referred to it as Barry's Toad, as in Barry had his Toad, Paul had his Toad. 1 or 2 other type Toads came through as well. But so really nice. So this episode, as you can see, it's starting in this kind of, it had almost like a creepy sort of feel to it. The title doesn't really lend itself to what this episode's really about. Yes, it's about soirée, and Toad's already talking about this soirée of holding one just for an evening's entertainment. So there's no real plot point here at the moment. There's no real kind of reason to do that. It's just other than just to have fun, enjoy themselves. So it's an odd script. But like I say, the soirée isn't the bit that sticks in my mind. It's what follows it, and we'll get to that when we get to it. And you got Toad, Afraid of the Wildwood again. Last week I reviewed Badger's Remedy, and he's similar in that one. I do like the script writing here, where Toad's saying, "Oh well, if you're coming, you might as well come with me, Ratting Balls, so that you needn't be afraid of Billy being in the Wildwood." Of course, Toad's terrified. I like that we've got Billy Rabbit in this episode. It's a nice little touch. I think his jacket is in the archive. I think I've spotted it. Yes, I think so. I do like Toad's waistcoat there as well. Very nice. So Toad's showing great care for Billy, which is nice. So that's that opening scene. It kind of sets up. All it really sets up is the kind of creepiness of the Wildwood and shadows and everything. But then the soiree that he wants to start, and this is the soiree itself. So they're all in their best suits. It's just an evening's entertainment. So when you compare to other episodes, this hasn't really got much drama. It's not much of a solid idea, to be honest. There's other episodes with much stronger ideas, much more dramatic emphasis going on, issues or problems, characters in peril, that kind of thing. There's none of that going on here. It's purely just a soiree. But like I say, it does culminate in something that's quite, again, sticks in your mind as soon as you see it. So when talking about the animation, the only real criticism I got is sometimes the lip sync is a bit odd looking. Almost like if you look at Toad, his mouth could do with opening a bit wider in places. You know, you've got David Jason delivering a big line, and Toad's just barely opening his lips. And then the eyes sometimes are rolling around so much. And eyes are so important, you know, getting the focus absolutely right. It's so important. Barry always goes on about it. You know, it's this kind of, you've got them all rolling around to the side, and when they do come to the centre, they look false almost. It's like they've got no focus. They're just staring into space. Again, I don't want to criticise the animators, even though I am there. But it's it looks good though, this episode. I mean, the whole. I mean, look at all those props, all that food on the table. And it's actually well lit. You know, it's you've got low lighting in Toad Hall itself, but we can totally see the characters. I do like that. We're going to do that for years. A gesture we'd never seen before with Toad. Ratty, I must admit, when I look at Ratty, he doesn't look. The puppet just looks slightly different. As I've said, he almost looks more like the seafaring rat from Wayfarer's Hall. Maybe it is that puppet recycled. I don't know. The skin just looks a bit odd, and Mole does as well. Do you know what I mean? Am I going mad, or is it just me? But even Badger there with his eyebrows raised so much, he looks quite terrified. I mean, I've said before that my friend, best friend, he was terrified of this as a child, and he'd always say, "It's those faces," and I wonder if he saw this episode, because they are kind of creepy in this one. So yeah, and I hadn't seen this episode until it was shown on Channel 5, of course, because it was not released on video. And although it's weird, it's funny how you always think you have a vague memory of seeing it or a bit of it when you're a child, and maybe I did catch a bit of it when it was shown on ITV in 1990. So all the things that, we don't know it yet, if you haven't seen the episode, but all the things that they're kind of talking about are relevant and do come up later. So the Three Musketeers, this donkey, the pin the donkey thing. And they're kind of always playing childish games, but why not? You know, having fun. I mean, Toad's the most childish of all of them. And I like what Badger said a while back there. He said, "Oh, we know the rules to pin the donkey." He says, "Played it when I was 5." And Toad's just going, "Okay." But this is a modern version. Nice animation of Mole. I mean, it's always hard to animate this kind of thing because it's not the usual type thing, is it? It's, as soon as you blindfold a character, they are going to walk around with their arms out and they're trying to find their way. It's an interesting animation challenge. One of my students did it for a walk cycle that they all have to do, and they actually chose to do a blind person. So how do they find their way? They've got to either feel with their feet or have their arms outstretched, a bit of both. It's very hard to do. So I mentioned lighting. There's a bit dark there, wasn't there? Certain shots where they could have adjusted the light. I think they didn't do that in this series. I think they had the lights there and that was it. I think they might have adjusted them a bit, but everything I've worked on, the lights are always adjusted for every shot so that you get the, but not in a way that makes it look like all the keys over there now. I would never do that, but it's, they would always do that these days just to make sure we can see everything basically. I do love this music. Now I've said before I've been lucky enough to acquire some exclusive music tracks from the composers, with Keith Hopwood, unreleased track, but nothing from Series 5. He does have Series 5 music, but on reels, not on a format that can easily be transferred. There are those old reels that would need baking first. I don't know if you heard about that process. And then you can only play them once, maybe twice, and that's it. Once you set them to a certain temperature, it's all about the way they deteriorate over time. But it does exist, and I actually offered, I'll do it for you, it'd be a pleasure, let me transfer them, I've got a player that can do it. And he said, because of all the baking, it's not worth it really. And but if anyone out there wants to email him and try and urge him to release them, it would be lovely to hear that music, because I do love that music just then. Nice little themes. And I've said before, all the themes in Series 5 are exclusive to Series 5, pretty much. All new music. So we've had charades, talking about Three Musketeers, that was Toad's thing that he was trying to do, pin the donkey, and now we've got this game where they're doing impressions of each other. And even now I look at this and I think, how does that exactly work? You mix the cards up and you know what your own card. I suppose you don't look at your own card. I suppose Mole could have anyone, couldn't he? Ratty, Badger or Toad. But what Badger said there, if it's your own card, pass it to the person next to you for them to do. Then everyone's going to know who it is. So the rules don't quite work. And Mole's good at doing the kind of things that they say, but they're not good impressions, are they? Mole can't do an impression of anything. And now Ratty is about to do Toad, and Ratty's not much better, really. He's saying things that Toad would say, but he doesn't say it in a Toad-like voice, really. And Badger and Mole are laughing more than we are, really, aren't they? Let's face it. What is funny though is not what Ratty's doing, but the way that Toad doesn't know that it's him. And that expression there, I do like that. And it's a little bit slow from here, I think. This episode, it does get slow in places of the series, but this is where it really gets slow. It's like, who is it? And they all say you. It's like, come on. See his cheeks there. So again, about the animation, these animators push the cheeks forward and back, which I've never really seen done before. So it's kind of an odd movement. So he's lost his temper now, Toad. He doesn't like being made fun of. So he's off to his room, and the others are kind of saying, "Oh, it's only fun." He's like. Badger's very right there, isn't he? That was just like Toad. That's typical Toad, going off in a huff when things don't go his way, he was upset. Notice how that shot's got a bit of a hazy look, and that's totally because there's going to be an optical effect on top of it in a moment. And now we're about to go into the culmination of the episode. Again, the scene that sticks in my mind. Now that's quite nice, that, because that's the cards, isn't it? Going around, and you hear all the what was just said going on in his head. Now this is where it gets very, very creepy. So Badger with Mole's voice, already creepy enough, but on top of that you've got him saying, "Oh my goodness." What's he saying, "Oh my goodness," at what? Like, Mole would say, "Oh my goodness," like that when something awful has happened, or it's like, "Oh my gosh." You know, so already, I'm already on edge just watching it now. I've got goose pimples. Partly because I know what's coming as well. And on top of that, you've got the moonlight, you've got the Mole with the Chief Weasel's voice. And you've got those awful sound effects of like wind blowing and howling and stuff of nightmares, you know. We've all had nightmares like this. Probably not with characters' voices changing, but... So Ratty is the henchman. Or henchman as Ratty. No, Ratty is a henchman. Now it's really interesting to hear how we zoom in. And we see Ratty Mole there in the foreground, we zoom into Toad. And suddenly Toad is made out to look huge. And Mole's tiny. It's very weird, isn't it? He dropped the doggy's tail into Mole's hand there. So the scale has suddenly shifted. Chief Weasel's got Mole's voice, so they've literally swapped. And that is freaky, isn't it? Big rabbit calling from a... And this is the... Oh, that's horrible. That's the most frightening shot, that, isn't it? A mole as the donkey. Just got lots of moles for some reason. Badger is mole. So there's the mention of the Three Musketeers. There's a nod to something earlier in the episode. And Ratty, or the henchman as Ratty, going on about the ripples in the river. So it's all those impressions interwoven. So it's basically Toad's, like with dreams, you know, things early in the day you thought about, or recently they crop up in a dream, and they're all muddled up in this nightmare. And it is frightening. You know, that would terrify me if I dreamt that. And it is terrifying to watch. And I think as a child, you would be absolutely terrified. Maybe that's the reason it wasn't released on video. It does stand out as one of the oddest episodes in the whole series, and yet I gather for some people it's a favourite. And yeah, it's what I'd probably call a cult episode. Like I say, it's not one of my favourites, but I like it in a weird sort of way. I like it in a kind of, in a not liking it sort of way. It's really hard to explain. Purely for that scene. I'm not so keen on the rest of the episode. I think it's fairly weak, straightforward, not a lot really happened. But that is where it's very dramatic. It's kind of like an experiment, but also I think it's, to be honest, I think Brian Truman was running out of ideas. And this is, of course, towards the end of the series, isn't it? At the end of the run. When you look at some of the other scripts from Series 5 as well, there's some ideas that are just so far-fetched as well. So we do have sympathy for Toad here. He feels sorry, you know. And I didn't mention it at the beginning, when he's narrating in the beginning, he says, "I do not expect to sleep ever again." So we assume he's writing that diary off the back of this, having not slept at all. He just doesn't want another dream like that. Look at Mole's eyes there. They're as terrified as in the dream. If this had been, I don't know, a Jackie Cocker episode, or Chris Taylor episode, or even any of the other directors, it would have a different feel. But Brian Little's other episodes are not so creepy. Again, they've just got that edgy look to the animation. But this is by far the creepiest, I think so anyway. So there we go, that's Hip Hip Soirée. Let me know what you think. It's hard to talk about the drama in that one, because there is, to me, not a lot. It's anything that happens is told as a nightmare, and he's afraid of his friends leaving. So that's all that really happens in that one. So, but still enjoyable, and like I say, that scene will always freak me out. I wouldn't dare to show that to my friend, not as an introduction. If I got him into The Wind and the Willows, I said, look, give it a chance. Have a look at this episode. That would be, yeah, a horrible thing to do. It's not the one to show to introduce people to it, I don't think. Certainly not a typical episode. But there we go. Hip hip soiree. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts. Thank you very much to all those who regularly comment. I wanted to give a mention to you, but I stupidly haven't written your usernames down. But you know who you are. Thank you so much. I will give a mention next week. I promise I will do that. I'll do my research a bit more. But what is wonderful is so many people who are commenting and regularly commenting, bringing up really valid points that I don't cover. There's only so much you can cover as you're talking, but little reminders, things that I'd forgotten about, and I'm like, oh yeah, of course, I should have said that, or I hadn't realised that. You know, really good points people making, and I'm really grateful for it, because it's at some point, with your permission, I'd love to kind of use a lot of that of those views in the book that I hopefully will write. Just got to finish getting my proposals together, hopefully get the green light, and hopefully make a start. Which will probably, to be fair, won't probably properly get going until I've got through these YouTube videos. Anyway, thanks so very much for watching, and to join me for the next, well, first of all, next week for Harvest, the regular episode review, and the next bonus one in 4 weeks' time is, let me just check, I think it's Piano Roll Toad. Yes, Piano Roll Toad. Probably my favourite from Series 5, I have to say. I've got a lot of favourites, but that one stands out for me. I love Piano Roll Toad. An award-winning one as well, that is. So do join me for that in 4 weeks' time, and enjoy September. All the best, thanks a lot, and see you soon.